my channel. So today I'm going to be drawing with charcoal. I have a very limited experience with charcoal. I think I did it a few times in art class at school, but I barely remember it. But yeah, we have some soft ones, we have some medium ones, and we have some hard ones. And I'm pretty sure this is the compressed charcoal. And yeah, I'm going to be using these little blending stump things here. I used them recently and they're pretty fun to use. And the paper I'm going to be using again is my mixed media paper. This stuff is really good. It has a nice texture and I feel like the charcoal is going to hold on to it really well. So I'm excited. Let's get into this and draw some art. So as I mentioned earlier, I do remember using this sometime in art class at high school. However, I can't even remember what I drew with it. It must have been that long ago. But yeah, I actually didn't mention this in the intro. I do have these sort of smaller woodless charcoal pencil shaped things that I'm also going to be using. I actually found those because I had them like in my art supply bin thing. And I haven't used them in so long, so I thought, I am drawing with charcoal, I might as well include those. So as I mentioned in one of my previous videos, I have been wanting to practice facial profiles a little bit more. So I'm actually going to be using the same reference that I used the other time and draw it. So I basically am drawing this image here, although adding my own little flair onto it, my own little art style, I guess you can say. And yeah, I chose this one in particular because I wanted to draw a face profile, but I also wanted to draw hands because hands is another thing that I struggle with a lot, and I felt like sort of this pose with the hands in that like sort of side angle, it would be a little bit of a challenge. And because the hands kind of look a little bit weird in the image, but that's just because of the angle that you're looking at them. But yeah, I decided to go with that one, and I'm pretty happy I did because it was a fair bit of a challenge. So I started off with a rough, sort of very light sketch. I want to do this in a slightly more realistic style than I usually draw. So I really didn't want to add too much, heavy line art or anything like that. I kind of just wanted it to be like a grayscale, almost semi-realism portrait. So yeah, I just did rough sort of shapes, trying to get the anatomy correct. And to be honest, I did struggle with that shoulder quite a bit. I don't know why, I just couldn't really get the shoulder into a position where it looked, natural. But I got there in the end, so that was good. So once I got the rough shapes down, which I liked, I went in with my dark, I think it was the soft charcoal pencil, and I'm basically just drawing in the darker parts of the features of the face. Now these sort of pencil shaped charcoal, they're really good for the details because of that sort of fine point that you can get. And I'm really glad I actually found those because they were very handy for this video. Now after that, I actually got the sort of charcoal blocks that I had, and I used the side of them to color in the background. Now the reference image I'm using does have a pretty sort of blank dark grey to black background, and I wanted to try and copy that a little bit, but I wanted a bit more texture in it. I wanted a little bit more sort of very subtle shadows in it. So I just did a bit of a rough layer of charcoal over it, and then I got a tissue and I basically blended it all out with the tissue. Now this is just so I could sort of smudge it and get that charcoal in the grooves of the paper so that it would cover up more of the white background and look like a really nice sort of blended background. Now the tissue that I used actually had a lot of charcoal left on it from doing that, so I actually used that tissue to sort of add very subtle shadows to the cheeks and the face of the person. And yeah, after that I used some of my blending stumps to blend in some of the details and just sort of refine the shadows a little bit on the slightly more harsher parts. After this, it was basically just refining the shadows over and over, going slowly from light to dark and trying to concentrate on the reference photo a lot. I wanted to capture sort of all the same shadows because I felt like that was a really good exercise to do to sort of hone my skills a little bit. And yeah, it was actually quite a bit of fun. It did definitely take me back to my old school days. It felt like I was sort of practicing at art school again, which was really nice. So now is the time to get really dark and heavy with the charcoal, because some parts of the photo I wanted to draw almost completely black. That was definitely her shirt and also parts of her hair. I actually had to layer it up quite a bit and push quite hard so that I could have a really dark sort of color. Now, smudging it around a bit helped, and I think I am pretty happy with the results of the dark black sort of color, the deepest shadows. After I did that though, I decided that I wanted to go back into other parts of the area and sort of deepen the shadows there as well, because once you add sort of really dark colors, the other sort of shadows don't seem as intense as I originally thought they were. So yeah, I just went back over on parts, especially around her hands, her eyes, her hair, that kind of thing, and her lips, and just sort of deepened it a little bit and blended it out so that it looked good. Now, I did buy a kneadable eraser, but I did that because a few people recommended it for me when I was doing the graphite drawing, and I thought, you know, that's not very different to charcoal, except charcoal is sort of heavier and darker. So I thought, you know, I'm gonna go get a kneadable eraser and try it out. Now, my first thoughts is it's very different to using a regular eraser. I know a lot of people love kneadable ones, but there's definitely a bit of a learning curve there. I was trying to use it as a normal eraser, and obviously it's kneadable, so it's squishy, and to be honest, it felt a lot like blue tack. But after a while, I sort of got the hang of it and realized that you sort of have to erase in a different way. And you know what? It actually ended up being quite helpful. I used it here and there to sort of lift some of the color so that I could sort of get those highlights back, and it really helped me sort of blend out some parts where I just wanted to remove a little bit of that color just to try and get those highlights and get a sort of smooth gradient. And I feel like it really did help, especially in some areas where I wanted to sort of erase a little bit here and there, like in the highlights of her hair. I was able to sort of pull it apart and use some really small bits to sort of erase tiny little highlights. And yeah, it actually turned out pretty useful. So I'm really happy I got that. So now we're nearing towards the completion of this artwork. I really wanted to sort of add a little bit more shadow into the background, just very subtle shadows that I wanted to sort of hint at, either something casting a shadow or something deep in the distance of the background. So I just sort of scribbled over that background a little bit more and then blended that a little bit more in some areas, and I feel like it really does help, and it looks really good. Now, this is definitely not hyperrealism or anything. You can see sort of pencil strokes or charcoal strokes, but to be honest, I really do like it. I feel like it's a very sort of loose drawing. I got the profile, I feel like I got it pretty good, and the hands do look really nice. They were in a bit of a sort of strange position, however, I am pretty happy with it, and I think it looks pretty good. Now, all I had to do after that was peel off the tape, because as you could see, I had the paper sort of taped down so that I could get a really nice border and the paper wouldn't move around on me while I was drawing. And I really like the results of that because I feel like it frames the piece nice, and it's so satisfying to watch that tape be peeled off. So anyways, here is the final results for this artwork, and I love it so much. This has been really fun and really refreshing for me to try new things and try different things, because you end up finding things that you like. So anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please let me know below what you think of this artwork and any sort of constructive criticisms, because I'm trying to improve here. But anyways, hit like and subscribe to get your scribble fix in the future, and I will see you in my next video. Bye everyone!